So, hello everybody, thanks for joining today. It's really lovely to have you all here, Sarah, Malika and Rob. So we're just going to dive straight in on the questions. So really to all of you, and we'll start with Sarah, it'd be great if you could tell us a little bit about who you are, what your job role is and what attracted you to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a senior product manager at CDK and I've worked in product for around about 7 years now, and in the automotive industry for most of my career, although I had other roles outside of that in software. So being a senior product manager was part of a natural evolution in terms of my product role, but actually my move into product management was really the ability to make a difference. So that's why I've sort of gone down the product management role from a career perspective.
Okay, fab, thank you. And Malika, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself now, please?
Yeah, of course. So I work as a product manager graduate, and I'm in my second year of the grad scheme at the moment. And I think the main reason I was drawn to CDK was because of the grad scheme itself. So I study consumer behavior and marketing at uni, and initially I was attracted to the product marketing role. Then I sort of stumbled onto the product management job description, and that just seemed a lot more appealing to me, especially because I really enjoyed the consumer behavior side of my degree. So I really enjoyed having the idea of having like an in-depth understanding of a customer's pain point and sort of innovating to solve those issues.
Right, great. Thank you very much. And Rob?
Hello. I'm a senior front-end developer and I'm responsible for web app development at CDKI. I've spent most of my adult life, in fact, all of my adult life, I think, at Kerridge, ADP, CDK, but occasionally I have ventured off to see if the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. And I've recently returned to CDK back in August after a 2-year absence of working at a startup, where I learned how important company culture is to me. And that was one of the reasons I came back.
Okay, fab. And that sort of leads quite nicely into my second question, really. So I'll put this to Sarah first. So do you think there's a need to take more action to get a gender balance within your workplace, and what the reasons for that might be?
Yeah, and I think if so yes, absolutely. And I think there's reasons that we're having this conversation today. And I think when you look at statistics, there's a lot around actually if you move more to the leadership, the balance is less in terms of females being in those roles. But if I talk specifically around product management, what I do and the benefits, I think men and women have very different viewpoints. And actually in terms of what we are doing within product management, we're providing products that solve problems. And either they are problems that people know about or problems they don't even know about today. And bringing those that diverse opinion in terms of from a gender perspective, the ideas, the market insight that we're able to bring ultimately is key in terms of the products that we will be producing from an organizational perspective to solve those problems. So absolutely yes, from my perspective.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. And Malika, if you'd just like to give your overview on that question, please.
Of course, I think, Sarah, you covered it really, really well. But yeah, I remember last year we had a talk on International Women's Day, and the stats showed that only 18% of women occupy key leadership positions in CDK, which is shocking. And I know the automotive tech industry is very male-dominated, but 18% is quite a low figure, and it clearly highlights that there is an issue that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, you know, Sarah, Malika, your answers sort of really underline the reasons why CDK is part of the Automotive 30% Club, and they're actually a patron member, and really that strategy that we have in place, it's fabulous that you guys are involved with that, and yeah, I think your answers totally support the reason. And so Rob, over to you.
Well, absolutely we do. And I mean, I'm coming from a sort of development and UX background. And I've seen firsthand the benefits that having more women in that side of the industry can bring, particularly with design, which seems to attract more women. There was actually a survey released this week. There's a survey every year for sort of front end development, and the figure was over, I think, 20,000 people surveyed, 91.6% were male, which is just absolutely shocking. And I've seen that having a female perspective is not only desirable, but I think it's absolutely, as Sarah said, it's absolutely essential to build successful modern products.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and thanks for that information as well. It's always good to get some stats thrown into the mix. So I guess then, Sarah, what do you think the reasons may be that we don't have enough women in the sector?
There's various reasons, and I think we can all probably talk to our own experiences as well with this. I think there's a lot around perception and visibility when it comes. You're inspired by what you can see, and actually if there's less women, that you're not able to see that, so we're not able to necessarily inspire, and I think as well, it's from a CDK perspective, we've got the industry in terms of automotive, but we've got a double blow really, because we're also a tech company as well. So if you put both of those together, it makes it harder. But I think one side of that is that there's such a variation of roles when it comes to tech and when it comes to automotive. And I think some of that comes from perception. So from automotive, you've got manufacturing right through to marketing. That there's such varied roles, and when we talk about from a CDK perspective, I'm not from a technical background, I think a lot of this is driven by perception, which then means how much we can then get into the industry from a gender diversity perspective as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you. Malika, I'm sort of going in a circle here, if you've noticed. Yeah, if you'd like to expand on that for me, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So I feel like there are a lot of different reasons for gender inequality in this sector. And like Sarah mentioned, I feel like a lot of it, or some of it at least, it can be partly attributed to a lack of knowledge or awareness of what's actually required to join the industry. And there are so many misconceptions that even I believed myself when I was sort of applying around. For example, one that I believed was you need to be really passionate about cars to join the automotive industry, or you need to have technical skills to work in a software industry, and neither of them are true. And I think secondly, there are a lot of different types of unconscious or implicit biases in the workplace. So these biases, they sort of operate outside a person's awareness. And I think that almost makes it more dangerous. For example, if we take gender bias, for example, gender bias may be on a subconscious level. It may be interfering with a woman's ability to progress in a male-dominated industry, and that's just one example. I'm sure there are multiple other biases around. And thirdly, and I think Sarah touched on this as well, I'm a firm believer of if you can see it, you can be it. So I think the lack of representation of women in key leadership positions almost has an indirect cyclical effect on inspiring other women to work their way up. And I know this isn't true for everyone, and it might not be a conscious thought for so many people, but I feel like it could be playing into it. So in other words, if you don't see it happening, you're less likely to believe that you could do it one day. And I know that's, again, something that I've personally experienced in the past couple of years. So I think those are the three main reasons: misconceptions, unconscious biases, and a lack of representation.
Yeah, thanks, Malika. That's a really concise answer. And Rob, if you've got an opinion on this, some reasons from you.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, it's from a technical slant, I guess, but if the industry is already male dominated, so that's obviously going to be off-putting to women who might be considering it. But again, from my sort of technical angle, I think you really need to start with schools and ask why so few women are choosing to pursue STEM subjects, which I think is a huge problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly, these answers really reinforce, the sort of plethora of research that shows how unconscious bias is already formed by the age of around 6 years old, and the real need for those role models. And we actually call them real models when we're doing inspiration for innovation activities with schools. So it is definitely if you can see it, you can be it. So those points are really, really valid. And really it's about having a greater celebration of, female inventors and trailblazers, and trying to tie that into sort of life in general for children to see, I think. And not only children, adults as well. So thanks for those answers. So I'm going to put this to Rob now, actually. So what made you join the automotive sort of related tech industry specifically?
Well, it was just because originally I just wanted to write code, so it was that's all I cared about. I just want to churn out the code. So it was more the tech side of it. The automotive thing was just inconsequential really at the time. I just wanted to write code. So, but it turned out that turned out to be a really good choice, because the sector's got a huge range of career paths, particularly, and that's got a lot better over the last sort of decade or so as things have opened up a bit more. It used to be that, back in the carriage days, it was a very closed system. Nobody else could access it. Over the years, that's now opened up. So we need to, deal with more companies, and it's just created a whole wealth of extra roles in tech that we need to be responsible for. But more recently, particularly with the web stuff, I just want to build great products and get them into the hands of people, really.
Okay, thank you. And Malika, what attracted you specifically?
So I'm kind of similar in the sense that I was more attracted to the tech side of things, because if you think about it, tech arguably is one of the most impactful things for our world and everyone around us. And so much revolves around tech. And I think specifically the tech industry is rapidly expanding. I think it's very dynamic because there's so much being developed like every day. And as a product manager, this means that you get to almost dictate what is developed, and you constantly have to innovate to keep up with all these changes and all the updated technologies. And I think that's very exciting.
Okay, thanks, guys. I think what I'm sort of picking out of that, especially on your point, Rob, is that you went into it because you actually enjoyed doing it. It was something that you really wanted to do. And you, Malik, you specifically chosen the tech side because it really floats your boat, shall we say. And, that really links in nicely with the way that we try and encourage students as well to think about not only what they're good at, but what they enjoy, because you have to spend such a long period, a long portion of your life working, and they both adults and children become quite caught up with the fact that they just need to do something to earn money, but actually then you sort of lose that those sort of peripheral ideas that you can actually enjoy your job, and that makes it just really makes life a lot more enjoyable all around. So thank you. So I'm going to pose the next question actually to Sarah, and this is specifically, I wonder if you could share with me what CDK are doing to attract and retain women in the business right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been certain some parts are around initiatives that we're doing and working on and trying things, and there's other parts which are more around CDK and our culture. So if I talk about recruitment, so if we focus on in terms of attracting people, and Malika touched on before around unconscious bias and how we're going through that recruitment process. So there's some things that have been worked on and are being tried from a CDK perspective. So that ranges from job descriptions, so who's actually writing the job descriptions and the type of people that we would be looking for, to actually then in the recruitment process, and whether that's around pre-screening, etc. So then it's work that's being done in those areas. But it's one thing, like you say, to get people in and actually attracting people, but then the retention part, it's very costly for an organisation to bring anybody into the organisation. So to retain them is then really, really important. And there's a lot about actually training, investment, mentoring that is available from a CDK perspective, and also being part of initiatives and being involved with the Auto 30 Club, which is really important for some people in terms of their individual values and the culture that we are building in terms of CDK. So quite varied across the board, right through from the start of looking to attract more women and also then retain them once they're here. But I think it also touches on exactly what Malika said around being able to inspire, and what you can see you can be as well, which is really important.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. I think, well, I know for sure that our CEO, Julia Muir, has been doing quite a lot of work with some of your team around diversity strategy and running workshops. So I know there's a lot of stuff going on the ground, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And so, Sarah, how do you think we can inspire the next generation of women into automotive?
So I think some of these things that we're involved in with the Auto 30 Club. So I know going into schools, and I know Malika's been part of that. I think that those are really good ways that we can start to show what is possible in terms of automotive, what types of things people can enjoy and maybe want to do because that's what they enjoy doing. Sharing stories and driving conversation around what we do and what those opportunities look like. And we're also doing things, so we're doing a dealer tech with universities, which is a competition that we're running as well, working with a number of universities around bringing different products, which is what CDK are running, and I'm being a mentor for part of that. So what's been submitted. So it gives us an opportunity and an outlet in terms of us as an industry, which is really important for us to embrace, but then also the ability then to bring the gender aspect on top of that, getting people involved, which is really good.
Yeah, great. And Rob, can I ask you to sort of expand on, you know, how you think we can inspire the next generation of women as well into automotive, please?
Yes, I mean, sharing success stories is a big one, I think, and it's important. That's probably the most important one. But I also think we really need to get away, you know, when people think of automotive, they think of selling cars.
Yeah.
And just that phrase alone is kind of perceived to be absolutely sort of dripping with masculinity. People thinking of selling cars, I imagine a dealership, you know, staffed primarily by men, you know, doing the selling. Yeah, automotive, there's a lot more to it than that. You know, there's hundreds of career options. So I really think we need to be very careful with, you know, with the sort of the language there that we use, and we sort of get away from that. It's just about the car dealership.
Yeah, I think as well, that is an interesting point, is that when we're talking with girls and boys in schools, arts is, you know, particularly appealing to girls. You know, that is shown in research, and really I think it's about creating a broader picture of what that artistic talent can be, and how that's translated, you know, in the automotive industry. So yeah, and I really like the point Sarah made about personal stories. In fact, I got a TED talk through today on email, and that was about MDs and really successful business people, and how by telling their personal stories and their business stories, actually that engages their employees a lot more than it does just by, you know, sort of laying something out really flat, and that works, I think, you know, throughout life. It really gives people something that they can connect with. Right, I'm going to go to Malika now, actually. You've been part of the inspiration for innovation events, as Sarah mentioned earlier, specifically contributing in the relatable real model panel and career spin networking at Kingsthorpe College, which was actually a great event, wasn't it? It was fabulous. So how important do you think it is to be part of these inspiring events?
I think it's super important, to be honest. Like Rob mentioned, especially school events. I think there is clearly an inequality which needs to be tackled, and trying to do this right at the start when kids are at school and they're starting to consider different careers is especially critical. And the way I see it, the more people we get on board with sharing their experiences, the more awareness we raise. We subsequently inspire and reach a lot more people, and then hopefully we start to see the process, speed up the process and start seeing results of fighting this gender inequality a lot sooner.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was just looking back at the feedback as well from that event, and the panel that you were on. I think we had a local entrepreneur and an engineering degree student who was doing a work placement at Delta Motorsport at Silverstone, and a Perry's team member. And the students actually, they recorded an 83% meaningful encounter rate against that, and that's really, really excellent. And when you think about a group of students that are in a room, they're not all going to be engaged with what's being said. Some of them totally, they've got lots of other sort of problems going on in their lives. You'll get a very small percentage who are very sort of concentrated on what they're doing. But I really want to thank you for doing that, because those students were particularly inspired, and you're absolutely right. It's taking that into the classroom and into a year group is really important, and it does filter down to their friends and their peer group. So that's great. So I'm just going to move on then. Thank you, Malika. So Sarah, from a team leadership perspective, how important do you think it is to embrace these initiatives that improve awareness and uptake of females into the automotive sector?
Yeah, so I think we've spoken a lot about the value, the benefits, especially when it comes to products. But in terms of from a team perspective, I think giving the team the opportunity to take part in these initiatives is huge. So whether that's around making sure they've got the time, whether they've got the awareness around what those initiatives are and what that means to them as individuals, I think is really important to understand and give them the opportunity to be part of those initiatives. I think the other side is, there's one part that's embracing the initiatives, and I think the other side is understanding actually where are the other areas we might need to focus on as well from a team standpoint. I think a big part of that is around collaboration amongst the team. It's around the culture that we're creating, around the ability to have those open conversations that need to be had. And I think we've got different tools from a CDK perspective that allow us to measure whether there's different areas that potentially we might want to spend more time on, whether we need to address or look for different initiatives that maybe we need to focus on. And I think that can be quite different when we look at individual teams versus the organisation. And I think there's different things that you can do that are relevant, whether that's a team of 5 or 10 versus the overall CDK initiatives that are also being run.
Thank you. And can I put that one to you as well, please, Rob?
Well, Sarah absolutely nailed that one. But yeah, I mean, having different perspectives is an absolute massive win. It's just a complete no-brainer to me. Yeah. I mean, having your software designed and built by a gender diverse team, it can change the way people perceive you as a company, because even as something as simple as the tone of voice that you use in your software can make a massive difference to usability and to how people perceive you as a company. So I just, to me, it just feels that we should be embracing all chances to encourage more women to work for us.
Yeah, fabulous. I know actually you did mention as well, Sarah, previously that you have surveys and results, and you actually at CDK have an engagement week. Correct me if I'm wrong there, which is, I think that is a great initiative. Is there anything else that you can tell me about that right now?
Yeah, so that was something. So we have, as an organisation, we have a survey, and we have like a regular, it's called a pulse check-in, just to see where we are on different things that we're looking at from an organisational perspective. And one thing we found within our part of the organisation, so there's around 20 of us that make up that part of the team, was we looked, you get the results, it's completely anonymous, but you get the results, and there's certain areas and themes that it suggests that maybe you want to focus on, and that can be based on the scores, it can be based on the number of comments that you started to get within a certain area. So what we decided to do as our team was put on this engagement week, to focus on those specific areas. So each day we had a theme, and we would get different people in it might be a round table or it might be a workshop each day to look at some of those areas. And one of the areas we had was diversity and inclusion. And that came up a lot. That wasn't actually around the scores, that was around a lot of comments. And there was a lot of interest in terms of actually having a very open conversation in terms of what we could do as a team, how we could support wider initiatives of that. And that was a really good opportunity to get our learning and development team in, and also Kath, VP in HR, to come in and talk quite openly around whether that be around initiatives, challenges, and how we could start to support and work together. So that was a really, really good week, and we're working on what else we can do around that as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, so that's quite a new initiative then, but that's something that you're, as a business, probably going to take forward.
Yeah, so that was us as a team, but we've shared it. So Malika is our engagement champion for products and engineering. So we've been working with Malika to look at actually how successful that was, what we might want to do going forward, and work out what that might mean wider outside of our team as well.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, so next question, and I thought it would be quite interesting to pose this one to Rob, because I know he has a daughter, and I mean, what do you think she would say about the importance of attracting diverse women into businesses traditionally seen as male orientated?
Well, my daughter, who will be 17 in a few weeks, is passionate about this stuff, absolutely passionate about it, and yeah, we have spoken about this. And she makes sort of three key points. Firstly, that a lack of women restricts businesses to having just a male perspective, and having more diverse teams actually drives innovation, which is something Sarah mentioned earlier, and I think it's absolutely on the money. And if women aren't represented, there'll always be this sort of patriarchy, and thus eventually a lack of social equality. And thirdly, I mean, with businesses being overwhelmingly male dominated, it will discourage younger generations of women who are equally capable as their male counterparts from pursuing careers in those businesses.
Yeah, great. Well, she's got three great answers there. And I think it's really positive as well, isn't it, that our young people actually thinking about these issues. And I think, going back to when I was at school, which is several decades ago, unfortunately, we certainly didn't really have a platform to do that. I didn't really feel empowered to be able to do that. And I think the more that businesses empower their employees, and that sort of can trickle down to our younger generation, that is really important to have that progressive outlook, and it should start to shape the future for young people in a much more positive way. I mean, I know it takes time, but I just thought it'd be great just to highlight that, and the need for that continued and ardent effort, if you like.
It's definitely changing. There's no two ways about it. When the sort of conversations I have with my daughter now, who's just in her first year of sixth form, I could never imagine of having those sort of conversations when I was at school in the 80s. Things have definitely changed for the better, which is very positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And those
there's still work to do, but
yeah, absolutely. There's always going to be work to do, but it's great to know. And as these young people come through into hopefully businesses like CDK, they're already empowered to stand upon their soapbox a little bit and talk about these things, which is great. So thank you, and thanks to your daughter for helping with that answer. So Malika, let's go back to you. So I'd just like to ask, what would you say to other people watching, you know, our members, who would like to get involved perhaps with the Inspiration for Innovation Network?
I'd really recommend it. I'd say just do it, because you get to empower others in a very important initiative, as well as develop your own skills. So there is sort of a selfish, maybe not selfish, maybe like a self-development aspect to it as well. And participating in these kind of events, you get the chance to develop or strengthen skills that you otherwise may not have had the chance to. So for example, like you mentioned, I had the opportunity to speak in front of a panel in front of about 100, 200 people, and public speaking has never been my strong suit. It absolutely terrifies me. But just having that chance to step out my comfort zone, and speak about my experience while hopefully inspiring other people, it was very empowering.
Good, I'm pleased to hear that. Yeah, I think that public speaking is a really hard thing for a lot of people, isn't it? And actually, a hall full of Y9s, and I think there was 140 of them actually. So yeah, hats off to you for that. But another interesting thing, and I think it's all right to be a bit selfish when you do volunteering, you know, because you know, it's nice to be able to give yourself opportunities and for companies to give their employees opportunities and to be able to take them. But I was reading some new research from Education Employers actually, which was all about well-being, and there's, you know, significant benefits to employees for taking part in volunteering. You know, actually it gives them more confidence, and you know, 79% reported improvements to their sense of mission at work as well as a result of that. And you know, so there's a real benefit for everybody involved, for companies and individuals. So thanks, Malika. So we've just got a couple more questions to go actually, and I think it's one for everybody, this. So I'll post this to Sarah first. What do you think is the most important thing you can do as an individual to inspire young people to embrace the automotive and related tech industry sector, and get them to actually think of those sectors as employers of choice?
I think it's actually the conversation, which is really important. And I think sometimes I use a reference which some people, if you're big Friends fans, you will absolutely get, but if you don't watch Friends, it's wasted, so apologies. But when I used to talk about what I do, a lot of people, it used to end up being the Chandler Bing job, which is like, you can't really explain it. But I think sometimes we make things seem far more complicated than they actually are. And actually, it is just about talking so people will understand and can relate to that. And I think with that, when you're talking, and we started saying about sharing your story, I think it's the authentic piece that comes with that. So it's not just what you do today, it's your journey. So I've had quite a varied journey to get me to where I am today. And I would have never thought this role existed when I was at school, nor would I think this would be a role that I would want to do. Yet I do love the opportunities that it's given me. So I think it is having that conversation, but being authentic with it, and the story and the journey to get there. But we need forums to be able to share that as well. And forums like this are amazing, but also don't forget, actually, the people that you see on such a regular basis, well, we used to see on a very regular basis pre-COVID, but family and friends and those people that you can inspire without even realizing what that conversation means, I think is so important, and different ways that we can do it.
Thank you. And Malika, I'll post that one to you now, please.
I think Sarah covered it very well. So, I mean, raising awareness is the first sort of step in achieving any successful change. So any way you can start raising that awareness through talking to friends, talking to family, and just challenging common misconceptions, I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Rob?
Well, just to hammer it home, yeah, I mean, change starts with individuals, doesn't it? So you need to talk to people, talk to your kids and their friends and parents and teachers, and sort of spread the idea that a career in tech is open to everyone. I mean, everybody that knows me outside of IT, if they would describe what I do, it would be, oh yeah, Rob does something with computers, but I think what's really important is, as I mentioned earlier, not enough girls are picking STEM subjects when they do their options when they're 13. So I think a dialogue with local schools is key, and success stories showcased before girls are taking their options, because if society still perceives STEM subjects to be a male preserve, which I think is, I don't think it's unfair to say that, then society needs to change. And as I said, that has to start with us as individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. So final question then, before we draw to a close. So Sarah, how does a positive progression to achieving and maintaining diversity and inclusion in the workplace make you feel?
Well, I think for me, in the industry that we're in, and being a female, I think it definitely feels like I belong, which for me, when you look at diversity and inclusion, I think it's the belonging piece that comes as a result of that, but actually is so important, certainly from my perspective. And I think it then comes to the culture, and personally, I want to be part of an organisation that is aligned to the values that I've got as an individual. So for me, it makes me feel like we're moving in the right direction. It makes me feel like I'm with the right organisation and I'm doing the thing that is right for me as an individual. And I think that's what it has to come back to, which is who you are as an individual, what you value, and where you want to go as well. Yeah, great answer, really. Thank you for that. So, and Malika, how about you? How does it make you feel?
Really excited, and I think again it ties in with the aspect of psychological safety and belonging. And belonging has been identified as a human need, and knowing that there is a focus on a more inclusive workplace, it's very reassuring. I'm really excited to see what comes out of it.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And Rob, finally to you, the last answer of the day, I think.
Well, it's very exciting, and obviously I have a slightly different perspective because as a man, but I really want to destroy this myth that STEM is not for girls, because it still does persist, and I think it should be challenged, and we should be encouraging more diversity, and it's something I take very seriously. And I've learned over the last few years that actually culture is everything to me. It is the most important thing, but there aren't quick fixes for it. Cultural changes in organizations can take years, sometimes decades, and you're always sadly going to have some people in your organization that just aren't going to budge. They're going to hold those views, and they're not going to change. And and to tackle that, sometimes you have to grasp a nettle and ask yourself some very hard questions.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really important thing to address, and Sarah touched on it as well. I think we should be encouraging people to be truthful, and not to cut out the difficult conversations, make people feel a bit uncomfortable, because you don't get any change without agitation, do you? No. And so, I think we're really generally feeling more empowered to talk about and enforce change, and clearly at CDK, and certainly I know in your sort of your local group, you're definitely working on that in a big way. And I'd like to thank you all very much for taking part in this conversation today. It's been really interesting. So I'm going to bring it to a close now, and thank you all very much. And I will look forward to speaking with you again in the future. And I know you've been great advocates for the Inspiration for Innovation network activities, and really pushing forward progress within CDK. So thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Okay, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.